Good morning, everyone. Gonna give everyone a few seconds to get on here. I remember there was a book that was written by some guy. I don't even remember who it was. I think Dad told me about him. And they said that the average person takes about 6 seconds before they make a decision once they see something. So I'll give everyone about 6 more seconds here before we get started, because if they didn't come on now, then they're probably never gonna come. And okay, let's start. Okay, so hop right in. This is going to be talking about how big our God is when we look at creation. Now, I'm a science person, and I know there are a lot of people here that hate science, and that's okay. You don't have to memorize any of this. You just have to listen. I just want you to try to go along with me and see what's going on. You're not going to be tested on this later, so don't worry about that. First thing I'm going to talk about is we're going to start off really small. Smallest thing, in fact, we're going to start with atoms. Now, atoms are very tiny, and actually they're mostly space. If you had an atom and you blew it up to the size of a baseball stadium, and you stood on that pitcher's mound, the nucleus, which makes up most of the mass of the atom, would be about the size of a marble, and the rest of the atom would fill up the entire stadium. Next thing after atoms are molecules. Those form when we take a bunch of atoms and we squish them together in different ways, and they have different properties based on their structure and things like that. So one really cool molecule that I know of is this one right here, which is, these are two different types of fats. You've probably heard of them or looked at them on a nutrition facts. We've got the saturated fats and the unsaturated fats. You can see the only difference is right here where this one has a tiny little kink in it and this one is straight. Cool thing is, because this is straight, you can pack more in a smaller area, which makes it solid at room temperature. But because this one is kinked, you can't pack as many, so it's liquid at room temperature. So something just as small as that makes such a big difference. And the reason why I show you this one is because these are what make up the membranes of our cells. The cells are what make up our body. And this is what encapsulates all the stuff in our cells. And so if we go here, this is our cell membrane. All of these blue and yellow things here are those structures that I just showed you before. And then we take a bunch of proteins and channels and throw them all in there, disperse them out, and take about 1 trillion of these lipids, these fat molecules, and that makes one cell. And the cells look like this. As you can see, we can't even tell any of the details of this cell membrane. And all of this stuff in here is just about as complicated as, if not more, than downtown Chicago. And you've got about 30 trillion of these cells in your body. So if that doesn't blow you away, I have no idea what's going to. Another really cool molecule, probably one of my favorites, is water. And a lot of people laugh at this because they think it looks like Mickey Mouse. And I was actually laughing to myself last night when I went to go get a drink of water, because as I'm drinking my cup of water, I realize I'm drinking like billions of Mickey Mouses. And cool thing about water is if you have a drop of water, about 1 gram of water, how many times do you think you can divide that up and get an individual molecule? How many molecules do you think are in a drop? I guessed like 1 million, 2 million, I have no idea. So I did the math, and it's 3.342 times 10 to the 21st power molecules. I had no idea what that meant, so I did some more math. We have about 7 billion people on Earth. If we squared that, which means if every single person each had 7 billion kids, that number is still 68 times smaller than the number of molecules in a drop of water. So, we've got a lot of oceans, we got a lot of water. We think that there's a lot of land on Earth, but really there isn't. The oceans cover the Earth about 70%. And the oceans on average are about 2.3 miles deep, with the deepest part being about 6.8 miles deep. That's pretty crazy. But the crust of the Earth, the part that we live on, underneath our continents, goes about 18 miles thick, and underneath the oceans goes about 5 miles thick. If we took the entire Earth and scaled it down to the size of an apple, the whole crust would be about the size of the skin of that apple. So we live on a pretty big Earth, but in comparison to the sun, it is tiny. You can fit 1,300,000 Earths in the sun. That looks like this. So over here we got that tiny Earth and the gigantic sun. Believe it or not, according to all the other stars, if we compare it to all the other stars, our sun is average in size. Some of the other stars, the biggest star we've ever discovered is called UY Scuti. And you can fit 3.7 billion suns in that one star. Comparison looks like this. Down here is our sun, and this is UY Scooty. We're pretty small, but it gets bigger. That's just a star. How big is our solar system? How big is our sun's reach? I looked it up, and turns out that in 1977, we sent out a probe and wanted to see what's out there. And since 1977, it's been going 11 miles per second away from the Earth, and still continuing to. And it's going to take 30,000 years for it to get outside of our solar system alone. In 1990, on Valentine's Day actually, they turned it around and had it take a picture of our Earth. And this is what they found. It's called the pale blue dot. That's our Earth, and this is a sunbeam. A very famous scientist has a quote here, and I'll read it to you. This is what he says. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every father and mother, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar and every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of humanity lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. It gets bigger. That's just our solar system. And that's one solar system. This is our Milky Way. This is our galaxy. And in this tiny white circle here is where we live. Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years wide. A light year is the distance it takes light to travel in a year. In 1 second, light travels 7.5 times around our Earth. And this is 100,000 light years wide. And it has somewhere between 100 and 400 million stars. That yellow dot you see there is the furthest any radio broadcast that we've ever made has gone. So if people are talking about trying to reach aliens on other galaxies, that's never ever going to happen. And that little red square you see there? Well, 99% of the stars that you can see in the night sky with your naked eye are all inside that little red square there. So back in the day, scientists used to think that was it, that this is everything. All the stars are here. It doesn't get bigger. It does. Turns out a lot bigger. This is called the local group. Our Milky Way galaxy is right here. And this is about 54 other galaxies, and this spans a whopping 10 million light years across. But this is just one local group. This local group then breaks down into the Virgo Supercluster with our local galactic grouping around here, and having we've got 100 other groups of galaxies, and this spans 110 million light years across. So remember the Virgo Supercluster, then we've got the Laniakea Supercluster. So over here we've got our little Virgo Supercluster, and here we've got 100,000 other galaxies, and it spans 520 million light years across. Last of all, we've got the observable universe. So our little clusters down here, and everything else is all that we've ever seen. This has at least 2 trillion different galaxies, and it spans 93 billion light years. And that's all that we know of. There might be more out there that we've not even seen. And when I learned all this, I couldn't sleep for an entire night. I was freaking out. And I just realized, we are God's handiwork. Colossians 1 tells us that in Jesus, all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. All the fullness of the God who spoke this all into existence in 7 days. All of that fullness was pleased to dwell in Jesus. And he reconciled us all and made peace by the blood of his cross. He took our punishment and became like us. He humbled himself. So with all this crazy stuff going on right now, all this stuff that goes on in our everyday lives that seems so big and scary, my point in saying all this is that we would have a bigger view of God, and that we would have a bigger view of the universe, that we would not look with such a small worldview, but that we would look through eyes of eternity and see what's really important. So I encourage you all to trust God. Be like David and Goliath, who, if you realize this, what's ever going to be against you. So I hope to see you all soon, and at that in person. And I'd love to make your drinks when I see you at the cafe. If I forget your name, then hopefully I'll remember you by your drink order. So I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.